and glad to see you all here today. Please silence your phones or if you haven't already. What a nice tree, huh? Yeah. Thank Risa and Fletch for putting that together. Very nice. And as is our tradition here, we like to welcome any visitors, first time, second time, or new members that would like to stand up and introduce themselves. Do so now. Give us your name, tell us where you're from.
Live here in Black Mountain.
Okay, great, welcome. Anyone else from this side?
Come next week.
Anybody from over here? Yes.
This is our second time here. It's Cameron and Tommy Harlan. We're relocating from Texas here in Black Mountain.
We didn't scare you off.
Good move. I'd say all my exes are in Texas. If anybody has any questions or wants to know more about us, there's people that are in the membership committee that have orange tags, like Andy in the back there. And there's also a card in your hymnal if you want to fill it out and put it in the collection plate with your offering. That'd be great. I just wanted to speak a little bit about the 8 principles this morning. It's something that we all share in common as you use. And you can read them there in your printout. It seems to me, when I look at them, that they're meant to help our congregation aspire to these values and goals, and also to help inspire us to try to change ourselves in our communities we live in to get closer to these goals. If you look at anything that's created and brought into the world, whether it's new technologies or past historical movements, they all seem to begin with a community's aspirations or an individual's inspiration. So that seems to be a hopeful thing for me going forward, and I hope it is for you all too. So, with that being said, we also try to remind ourselves every week that this land that we're now stewards of is the former land of the Cherokee and other indigenous peoples before us. And I read an interesting thing about the Cherokee, that they called this area that we live in now, they called it the land of the blue smoke and the great river. And the blue smoke is that you see some mornings rising up on a hillside, has become the Smoky Mountains and the Blue Ridge. And the great river has been interpreted from their language into ours, and it's come to be called Swananoa. So with that being said, let's start the service with the Reverend Michael Carter.
Good morning, good morning. Good morning. I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. Every board member comes up and has, they have a basic script, but, I'm learning, and so I appreciate Wally for giving us some tidbits before we get involved. Anyway, we're getting closer to the end of the year, and it's coming fast, and I'm glad to see you here. I'm glad you could get out too. There wasn't too much ice or any ice at all. It was a little dicey, but I'm glad you could make it. And so I want to share these words with you, these opening words from St. York. We receive fragments of holiness and glimpses of eternity, brief moments of insight. Let us gather them up for the precious gifts that they are, and renewed by their grace, move boldly into the unknown. With that being said, thank you, Diane. Please rise as you are willing and able, and join in singing our opening hymn this morning, number 12, O Life That Makes All Things New. Our responsive reading is number 653 in the back of the gray hymnal. We will read this responsively. Reflections on the resurgence of joy. How short the daylight hours have now become, how gray the skies, how barren seem the trees.
A damp and chilling wind has gripped my mind and made me gloomy too.
Ooh, that's a happy little hummer to start morning with. I should have looked this over a little deeper, but okay. But there is that in me which reaches up toward light and laughter, bells and carols.
And knows that my religious myth and dream of reborn joy and goodness must be true.
Because it speaks the truths of older myths.
That light returns to boundless darkness, life surges in the evergreen and endless.
And babes are hope, and saviors of the world as miracles abound in common things.
Rejoice and join in the gladness of Christmas.
So this is the time in the service when we invite you to come up and share a joy or concern. We have the candles, we have the stones and the water, and you have the floor. Does anybody need me to bring them the stones? Okay, well, this one is for those of you who, for whatever reason, decided not to come up, but it's symbolic. We keep you in our thoughts and prayers and hearts and minds. Okay. We will have the time of quiet that we usually have after our meditation. I invite you to join me in what's entitled In Praise of the Ordinary. And a lot of times when we think of miracles, we think of the large, the big, the grandiose, which is valid, but this will bring us to see more of the everyday as just simply existing as being a miracle. And we have a time of quiet, and we go on from there. In praise of the ordinary. I lift my voice this day in praise of the ordinary. The endless routines of living. Life's everyday rituals, the boring things we do to exist. The monotonous getting up in the morning, eating, working, going to bed at night, moving to and fro to make a living, enjoying a life. I celebrate the simple things, the things to which we give not a second thought. There's the miracle of simply breathing, the act of eating, the cadences of daily speech, the sounds of nature as a simple backdrop to our complicated lives. I celebrate leaves falling from the trees and snow falling from the skies, the brave persistence of the grass and the sleeping flowers of the field. Enough, I say, of big things and great things, and extraordinary things, and ultimate things. I celebrate the ordinary, and I lift my voice in praise. And now, while our minds are one for this brief interval, I leave you with the eloquence of silence. And so it is. The greatest use of life, as William James reminds us, is to spend it on something that will outlast it. And in that spirit, we will now collect this morning's offering. message from Robert Times. And this was on December 8th. It slipped my mind to announce it before Joyce had concerns. He says, we stayed in the hospital here at Duke for 71 days straight before getting a little break for Thanksgiving, waiting on test results. Back in the hospital now, and on day 3, as they say, preparing for my blood and bone marrow transplant, along with other transplant patients. He's undergoing more chemotherapy, but feeling pretty strong. He wanted to thank us for our support. He was scheduled for a stem cell transplant on December 11th. I spoke to his daughter, but that was before the procedure, so I don't know how he is doing. You know, he's going to be vulnerable. His immune system is going to be very low, and he's in Durham at the Duke Blood Cancer Clinic for another 75 days until early March. He's feeling good now. We'll be taking some harsher chemo drugs in the next few days. Please thank the church and many folks that have been sending good vibes and best wishes my way, wishing us all the best. So when I hear something, but call. I'm sure you can at least call Betty and get some information. Keep him in your thoughts and prayers. With that said, please rise as you are willing and able, and join in singing number 18 and number 18. What wondrous love is this, number 18. Please be seated. I want to talk this morning about UUs and miracles. So you're probably seeing a theme from last week, UUs and religious language. I told you I had another sermon title about, I want to unpack some of those words. And something else I wanted to share with you, your board, your wonderful board, your dedicated board, came up with the idea to dedicate a few hours talking about what it is that we believe as UUs and how that impacts governing this congregation. And I think it's important that we revisit and visit what it is we really believe. What we believe now may have changed. Or maybe the old thoughts that we have don't serve us well anymore. And it's crucial to know what it is you believe and not to always have to define that as what I don't believe. Many of us, not all of us, define our religious or theological beliefs by what it is that we don't believe. Knowing what one doesn't believe has its upside. I think it does, because it narrows the field a bit. Yet many of us say that we are spiritual seekers, and we forget that in order to seek, the whole purpose of it is to find something. There are truths that were true 5,000 years ago and more, and will be true 5,000 years from now. This doesn't mean that that you believe something now and you change. Okay, that's not a bad thing. Another upside, of course, is to be able to articulate what it is that we do believe, knowing that as we grow and evolve, those beliefs will obviously change. That's okay. It's okay to grow and to change. There's an old saying that if you can't change your mind, then you really, really can't change anything. I resonate with Ralph Waldo Emerson, who was a was a Unitarian at one time, and he left the denomination, but he says this, and I'm quoting, he says, "The highest dwells within all of us, although we're not usually in touch with that reality." Now that's our first principle, but let him finish. "There is a deep power in which we exist and whose beatitude is accessible to us. It comes to the lowly and the simple. It comes to whosoever will put off what is proud." That means get your ego out of the way. "It comes as insight. It comes as security and grandeur." I like that word. Grandeur. Now, he doesn't assume, Emerson does not assume that all of us will know this life force all of the time, or even some of the time. If you needed it all the time, you wouldn't need a body, and you would not even really need to be here, because you would be pure consciousness at that point. But not even some of the time. Yet it can arrive through spiritual disciplines, like what? Like meditation, like contemplation and prayer, through moral disciplines of character building. It can occur communing with nature. And when it comes, it appears that it comes just out of the blue. That it's just, the eureka moment, right? This burst of insight. I want us to really take that in. Because where we're going in the next 4 years, we will have some difficulties, but you're going to hear more and more talk about this being a Christian nation, a Judeo-Christian nation. And you want to be able to translate that, because if you can translate that, you can translate what it is that you believe. The Bible is important, folks, because the society that we live in deems it important. We cannot understand ourselves fully without knowing a bit of it. That's why I've dedicated these last 3-4 weeks to bringing it up, because our culture is saturated with it. It's in our education system. And I don't really mind that, it's just the way it is. It's in our sports. You hear these athletes, talking about God. I don't know if this energy is fixing football games, but I don't know, but maybe it is. I just think that trivializes it, but it's okay. It's okay. It's a violent sport. You gotta believe in something. And it's definitely in our politics. In my opinion, nothing could be more useful, and some would say nothing could be more dangerous in these times than a religious liberal with a knowledge of the Bible. You know, I joked with you last week, but it's pretty true. In the UU world, we want our ministers to be trained in this, but we don't want you to talk about it on Sunday. Want to know, you know. You got your degree, you got your MDiv, but we don't really want to hear a lot about it. You know, except in the UU Christian churches, which are mostly in New England. Sometimes parents say to me, or I've heard them say, that they do not give their children any religious training because they feel that they may be taking unfair advantage of the children. And they say that they propose to let their children grow up as unbiased as possible. But if you do not bias your children in this context, this religious, spiritual context, someone else will begin the work of biasing them for you. That's why we have UU religious education for our youth. Parents have no choice, and either you will do it wisely or not at all. Many children don't even know whether or not their parents believe in a God. They don't know. I told you some UU ministers don't really let their congregations know what they believe. I'm not saying that's intentional, I'm just saying. Sharing is different than shoving beliefs on your children. Remember last week we talked about maybe why we stay so small is because we don't talk about what it is we believe. But, and we get evangelization mixed up with witnessing. Witnessing is letting people know this is what I believe, I can articulate it. Maybe you resonate with that. That's different from evangelizing. But we need to do something if we want to grow, because eventually, if you're not growing, you're dying. And UUs have been 1,000 churches for so many years, we've kind of flatlined. It becomes a club after a while. Just a few liberals sitting around talking. Yes, children must make their own choices, but you can still give a plug for what it is that you believe, how you feel and see the world working and your place in it. Children will learn about sex and religion in any case, and the only choice we have as parents is who they hear it from first. In a Judeo-Christian culture such as ours, whoever doesn't know anything about the Bible is a cultural illiterate. And I'm not saying you have to go to seminary like I did, but I am saying just basic stuff. How many books there are in the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, it's a fascinating book. I gotta tell you. Those of us who always find ourselves rooting for the underdog, for instance, where do you think that comes from? Where do you think that comes from? The entire message of the Hebrew prophets, as well as the early Christians, is that we can turn this world around and that the underdog can win. Sometimes miracles happen to cause this change, sometimes not. People believe then and now that there is an energy, you can call it God, there is an intelligence, you can call it what you will, that acts through human history. Go to the African American church. They'll let you know. Right? Go to a synagogue. Go to a mosque. They'll let you know. The stories are universal. And that is why so many people resonate with them. That's one of the reasons, in my opinion, that Easter here and many of you churches are packed, and Christmas. Because our job is to, as ministers, as clergy, is to make those stories relevant for today. Because they are. The New Testament is not about virgin births or people walking on water or being raised from the dead. That's in there. The message of these stories are that these people had the courage to imagine a different world. Rome was cruel. The Pax Romana was really a bunch of thugs saying, you'll do it this way and you'll keep the peace. If you don't, well, you can use your imagination. My pet lion is hungry. There's a piece of wood over there. They learned that from the Persians, but there's a piece of wood we can learn. I mean, this is the world that they lived in. And whether you believe the stories or not, for someone to say, you're going to throw me to the lions, bring it on. You're going to stone me to death, bring it on. That's all you got? Something happened to these people to make them be able to look life and death in the eye that way. I wish I had that. I wish I had a belief that deep. Palestine was occupied territory. Hellenization had forced these folks to speak and to think in Greek. And along comes this teacher, rabbi, and their grief and their misery were being taken seriously for once, taken seriously by this man. Josephus writes that he doesn't know if he can even call him a man. He was special. Caesar had the power, or so it seemed. And yet this man had an idea. In the First Testament, the Old Testament, it was the Hebrew prophets who were the social critics who proclaimed that the dispossessed would someday be on top. It would take a miracle, but it would happen. Christianity just continues this. And where did Christianity get it from? From Judaism. Christianity is nothing if it's not about social transformation. Not what we're calling it now. Not what these folks are calling it now. But this is what it started out as. And if you lose sight of that, you're always going to be biased and prejudiced against Christians. Because you don't know your history. It wasn't always as you know what as it is now. It challenges the status quo. Now, it's doing that now. Maybe not the way we would like it, but that's what that spirit is about. The Old Testament prophets talked about caring for the widows and the orphans and other forms of social justice. And that started hundreds of years later because Yahweh was about a whole different other thing. Yahweh, as you know, had his problems, his issues, his anger issues. Those of us who cannot get the message of these stories, either you haven't been squeezed enough or you've forgotten what it's like to be squeezed. Remember, the religion of the privileged is always different from the religion of the marginalized. Always. So the question is, do you believe in miracles? Can you get the story? You can be squeezed at the top now. Don't get me wrong. You can be squeezed at the top as well as the bottom, and so in some ways, the issue is really deeper than race and class. Yet, when we all get in the same room and want to articulate how we've been squeezed at the top and the bottom, we run into problems. That's when it gets messy, because it becomes a pity party. It becomes, I've suffered more than you. I'm black, so you don't know what I went through. I'm Native, you don't know what I went through. I'm a woman, you don't know what I go through. And so we compete with each other. The text is just a mirror into a movement, and much of Judaism, as well as Christianity, is a social movement about transformation and experimentation. It's like democracy. People say, well, democracy's threatened. Well, we're not democratic, we're working towards that. This is an experiment. We don't live in a democracy, we never have. Otherwise, you wouldn't have civil rights movements, gay movements. You don't need that in a democracy. You don't need that, because you've already got it. And no religion or politics is perfect. If UUism is to grow and to remain relevant, if it is serious about drawing in other cultures, other races, other ways of looking at things to the denomination, it'll have to take seriously the religion of others, including Christians. I mean, in a lot of ways, we're like our more conservative brothers and sisters. You know, oh yes, there are other religions, but we know what the true religion is. Yeah, who said that the other day? I was watching him. He said, hey, I'm just telling you, yes, there are other religions, but I know the true religion. Oh, Tucker Carlson. Well, I listened to him because I like to hear what the other half thinks, and he's also one of the very few people that are up on, this whole thing about non-human intelligence. I mean, I don't watch Fox News, but I always listened to it when he spoke and there was another person, because they took it seriously. Well, ahead of their time, now our government is talking about it, as I bring up to you, so you gotta listen to people because there's always a kernel of truth somewhere. But, you see that there is a sort of resentment, that's a word, there's a resentment ideology to Christianity and Islam and Judaism. And this ideology says that your hurt and resentment will be addressed and taken seriously in this belief system. Dr. King's mentor, Howard Thurman, reminds us that the contradictions of life are not final. For those of you who are going to have ulcers before these next 4 years are over, remember that. The contradictions of life are not final. The Buddhists say that nothing good lasts forever and nothing bad lasts forever. Otherwise, you're going to have problems in 4 years. The contradictions of life are not final contradictions. The ancient Gnostics chose not to stress this message. They chose instead to stress that there is a spark of the divine in each and every one of us, and that is undoubtedly true. You will not get an argument from me about that, but there's more to the story. And so people need then and now to have their grievances and resentments and anger taken seriously. I need more than just namaste, man. I need some food. I need some education here. I need some shelter, not just namaste. Yes, you see the divine in me. I see it in you too. But I need a little more than just that. And the Gnostics were the elite intellectuals of their day. And they believed that they had the knowledge and the education and the sophistication, and others did not. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands. But they in turn marginalized those who refused to agree with them. And there was a spiritual arrogance at work to a degree in Gnosticism. Big churches are not built on these kind of ideas. And when they are, they don't last long. Perhaps this is why their spin didn't win the day. I mean, I'm oversimplifying. If someone puts a dagger to your throat, it's persuasive. Jesus is Lord, yes, 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 yes. Mary is a virgin, yes, 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 yes. We can put that thing away, why don't we? The movement of Christianity appealed to those who felt resentment of this world and its ways. If you lose focus on this, you lose the message. The people then and now believed in miracles. Sometimes a miracle drags us out of our self-centered ways and gives us a glimpse of that larger existence to which we all belong. Now, some would say there are no miracles in Unitarian Universalism. I don't know if that's true. I don't think it's true. I realize that many conservative religious folk take miracle stories as religious truth rather than symbolic. I have no problem with that. I do too. I just have a different explanation. So I get it. And many of us, in order to distance ourselves from this lack of rationality in religion, we remove ourselves entirely from the miraculous in religious stories. Brother Thomas Jefferson did. I have his Bible back there. He took all the miracle stories out. It's called the Jefferson Bible. You can borrow it. You can keep it. I have two of them. And I understand this, I do. The desire to affirm you want to use reason in religion. Yet I see this as this tactic as it's a level of evolution for the individual. It's not the final answer. Some people need to do that. The highest evolute is not going from it's not going from theism to atheism. That's not as high as you can go. Sometimes, like C.S. Lewis, it's the other way around. I go from atheism to believing that there's something greater than me. The question is, who gets to decide it, though? Who gets to decide that? Can these stories be both true and symbolic? Who gets to decide what is real and what is not? What are those deeply human experiences that somehow define reason and logic and proof? You can't get here from here. You can't think your way into heaven, in other words, whether you believe it or not. This only goes so far. For instance, perhaps our biblical ancestors were simply trying to explain the technology that they were witnessing from the Lord in the language of their day, right? Sci-fi writer Arthur C. Clarke writes, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Look at the World War II cargo cults. What of the people who have had near-death experiences or NDEs? What about that? What about people who've had out-of-body experiences, OBEs? Or, we can get so hung up on using our rational minds that we take the awe out of life. We forget to look for truth in story and in metaphor, or even leave room for something to be true, even if when we can't rationally understand it. Why do we do that? What are we afraid of? And I'm in no way questioning the value of science and physics and the explainable wonders of the world. I'm not talking about that. But I'm not trying to get us to turn away from reason, but I want us to encourage us to leave room for wonder, for awe, toward the possibility of the miraculous, whatever you deem that to be. I have personally witnessed miracles. I mean, miracles. Not, I just saw the sun go up. That's not, on a scale, you can get used to that, but I have seen people's cancers go away. I've helped people's cancers go away. Well, whatever this energy was that was moving through me. I've seen people being written off and turn their lives around. I have seen beings that are not from this planet on numerous occasions. I know that our little view of the world is just that. I know that. I don't believe it. And there was a time I could say that and be asked, I couldn't have a job. But I'm too old to even care about that at this point. People can survive Roman crosses. Josephus talks about it. You see, so when these things happen, they seem miraculous. Emerson says, again, that when it breaks through our intellect, it's called genius. When it breathes through our will, it's called virtue. And when it flows through our affections, it's called love. Ever heard that word? Love. For some, maybe we are not supposed to believe in the impossible, but every once in a while it shows up. And anyway, it shows up just to keep us on our toes, reminding us to keep the doors and windows of our lives open. Who was it? William Blake said that in the universe there are things that are known and there are things that are unknown. And in between there are doors. In between there are doors. A recent Time poll said that 70% of all Americans today believe in miracles actively occurring in the world. 70%. Could be much higher. These are the people who admitted to it. Again, Emerson, the highest dwells within us. We're not always in touch with that reality. There's a deep power in which we exist, and it appears to the lowly and the simple, and it comes to whoever can put their ego out of the way. It comes as insight, and it comes as security and grandeur. So the question is this morning, what is a miracle for you? Is it simply a violation of the laws of nature, as David Hume eloquently phrases it? Or perhaps there may be universal laws that we simply that we don't know about. You know, we're looking at UFOs and stuff, but we're using Newtonian Cartesian physics. These people have, and they are people, these people are in 30th century technology, and we're looking for it in 21st. That right there tells you something's not right. What does it do? What do we make of these miracles? Do we declare them silly and unscientific and dismiss the holidays that go with them as equally so? Or do we commit ourselves to trying to believe in possible things so that we can keep the beauty of the holidays? Is a miracle an impossible thing? Maybe, maybe not. It may be that a miracle may be an impossible thing that points us to something greater. The miracle of Passover points to the God of the Hebrews being on their side because they were enslaved. Yahweh made liberation possible so that when there was no means of escape, the parting of the Red Sea. He made a way out of no way. The miracle of Jesus' healings and resurrection points toward the sacred truth that things are always dying and being reborn, that endings often lead to new beginnings that we might have never imagined. And then there's Hanukkah. The miracle of Hanukkah is that the Jewish people celebrate their victory over a tyrant and the rededication of the temple in Jerusalem. And as the story goes, a small quantity of oil to light the temple's menorah miraculously lasted for 8 days. We can go on and on. A miracle is something that catches your attention, a sign that points you towards something greater, points you towards a truth you may not otherwise have seen. It makes you, it takes your breath away. It's in amazement and wonder. Or are you just one of those people, you know, Michael, I've seen it all, please stop it. I've seen it. It sounds good, but come on. A miracle doesn't have to be impossible, but it can be. It does need to be extraordinary enough that it pulls you out of the everyday rush to just live and let things get done. I got things to do. Something higher or deeper or wider grows in you. Something that you never knew you had. It could be seeing a baby being born. That's what the least of what Christmas is about. An event in nature, a mystical experience. A restored relationship. Or miraculously being free of an addiction or habit that was making your life too small. My mom was, for all intensive purposes, an alcoholic. But she was a person of faith, a person of faith. I can't explain it. One day she got on her knees and she said to God, "Take the taste of alcohol out of my mouth." And she stopped drinking. For 40 years. Explain that. Biblical miracles are events that remind people that God or something is at work in the world. That might not be a definition that appeals much to you or I, but it's a perspective and it's a valid one. Miracles remind us that we are connected to one another and this planet, this cosmos, this multiverse. How many of you knew that your government has been having congressional hearings on non-human intelligence? What? And you never brought it up? I don't blame you. People would think you were nuts. This is where our tax money is going. I don't mind. But we're reminded that we are connected in ways with them as well. That we can neither fully see or fully comprehend. Sometimes a miracle drags out, it makes us come out of our self-centered ways, and it gives us a glimpse into something larger that we belong to. Life is not only stranger than we think, it is stranger than we can think. What's important is the willingness to temporarily set aside the liberal, not give it up, the literal, the rational, to disarm judgment for the purpose of opening up some other part of our being. A Course in Miracles proclaims that a miracle is a shift in our perception from love, from fear, to love. Now that's a miracle. And we could use one, or two, or 8 billion. This change in thinking then creates the change in our lives. You don't have to change the world, the Course tells us. Change your mind about the world. You're going to need a lot of X-Labs for 4 years. We can experience miracles in our ordinary moments with this shift in perception. The truth of the matter is really this, that you and I are entitled to miracles. We are entitled to miracles. Now, if you don't think you deserve it, don't mess up mine. That's something you're going to work out. A Course in Miracles declares that we are to let miracles replace all grievances. All grievances. Another person with a good head on his shoulders, Albert Einstein, said that there are only two ways to live life. One is though nothing is a miracle, and the other is to live as though everything is. May it always be so. Please rise as you are willing and able. Our closing hymn is number 6. We have to say yes to life, ladies and gentlemen, just as long as I have breath. Okay, let's give Sue some love. To those of you who came here seeking the holy, may the holy go with you and in you. To those of you who came here seeking to embrace life, well, may life return that affection. To those of you who came here seeking a better way, may that way be found for you, and you can take it step by step by step by step. The blessing of truth be upon us, the power of love direct and sustain us. And may the peace of this community preserve us in our going out and coming in. Have a wonderful afternoon. Hope to see you Christmas Eve. Next week we're going to talk about Jesus' mom. Be nice.
And it'll be hot.
And
It'll be hot Sunday.
hot love too, so if you don't come for one, come for the other. And have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you. You too.